People said there were two kinds of pain in this world. The pain of losing money, and the pain of watching Grace lose money. The second one was worse. From the moment she stepped out of her big gates each morning, people whispered, "There she goes, the woman whose fingers squeeze money tighter than glue." Some even called her sticky fingers, because once money entered those hands, it never came out again. Grace was rich, everyone knew that. She had inherited everything from her late father. A large house, a full compound, and enough money to live a soft life. But instead of enjoying her blessing, she lived like someone escaping from comfort itself. Her clothes were old enough to have birthdays. Her slippers were patched like stitched puzzles. Her underpants were, well, no one knew how they still existed. Grace believed one thing. Banks are thieves in suits. People are thieves in disguise. The only safe place for money is inside your house and under your control. So she hid money everywhere. Behind picture frames, inside empty paint buckets, under the bed, inside her fake flower vases. She even wrapped some in old newspapers and placed them behind the fridge. One day, armed robbers broke into her house. Grace screamed and pointed at her drawers, shaking like someone who just saw a ghost. But when the robbers looked inside, all they found were coins, old receipts, and pure nonsense. They stared at her, confused. "Madam, are you okay at all?" Grace cried louder, my money, everything is gone." The robbers felt so sorry for her that they dropped some money on her table and left. Yes, even thieves pitied her. Everything changed the day Emma knocked on her gate. Emma, her cousin, stood outside with a dusty box, tears in her eyes, and clothes that looked tired of being worn. "Please, let me stay here, just for a short time," Emma begged. "I have nowhere again." Grace folded her arms. "You wasted your own inheritance on parties and wigs, and now you want to disturb my peace?" Still, she opened the gate. After all, Emma was family, and Grace liked to remind herself she had a soft heart, even if nobody believed it. From the moment Emma entered, she became a maid. Grace turned the mansion into a training ground for suffering. Emma, sweep the compound. Emma, wash the plates. Emma, clean the windows. Emma, iron my clothes. Emma, wash the bathroom again, I want to smell heaven inside it. Emma obeyed, but her heart cried every day. Whenever she complained, Grace would lift her hand dramatically. "Do you know the beauty of suffering? It builds character. I am helping you grow." But Emma was not a fool. She planned small tricks to escape the workload. First trick. A fake sickness. A terrible stomach pain that needed a surgery of 2 million naira. Emma lay on the floor and groaned like she had swallowed a stone. Grace looked at her with deep concern for 2 seconds, then said, "I have something better than any surgery." She brought out a small cup of water. "Holy water, blessed and powerful. Drink it and be cured." Emma opened one eye. Holy what? Emma invented a fiancé. She said he needed money for introduction. Just a small amount to help 2 lovers start life. Grace clapped her hands and laughed until tears came out. Your imaginary husband should also bring imaginary money. Emma tried one last plan. She sneaked into Grace's prayer corner where she kept her famous iron box. Emma opened it slowly, hoping to take a little money, just enough to run away from her maid life. Before she could blink, Grace appeared behind her like lightning. Emma froze. Grace screamed. Neighbors rushed out. Emma fell on her knees, stuttering like a broken radio. "I just wanted small money to buy medicine. Please, forgive me." But Grace dragged Emma out dramatically. She shouted to everyone watching, "Look at this. I am the real owner of this house. Nobody can steal from me." Emma was thrown out with her dusty box. And rumors spread faster than wildfire. Never mess with sticky fingers. Beggars stopped by her gate sometimes, hoping for a miracle. But Grace never gave money. She only gave advice. A woman with long, expensive-looking hair approached her one morning. "Please help me, my children have not eaten." Grace pointed at the hair. "Sell that long hair and cook. Why are you begging when your head is carrying a full business?" Another beggar, a pot-bellied man, held his stomach dramatically. "I am hungry, just a little help." Grace replied calmly, "You are not hungry. A hungry person does not have a stomach pushing out like that. Go and fast. It will reduce the size and build your spirit. People stopped begging after that day. But life had one surprise she never prepared for. His name was James. Grace met him on a rainy afternoon. Her umbrella flipped in the wind, water splashed everywhere, and she looked like someone escaping a storm. James stopped his car and offered her a ride home. When she stepped in, she whispered to herself, "I have saved 5,000 today. Thank you, Rain." James laughed gently at her comment. He found her strange but interesting. Grace found him handsome but dangerous to her peace, because he made her heart do small flips. They became friends, then something more. And soon, their wedding was set. Grace thought life would finally be easy. She had no idea the real trouble was waiting at the gate of her own family. Grace believed she had seen every challenge life could bring. She had survived armed robbers, survived Emma's dramatic tricks, survived beggars with unbelievable stories. But nothing prepared her for the battle waiting ahead. Her family. The moment they heard she was getting married, they gathered like hungry birds around a plate of food. Grace was happy at first. She thought they would celebrate her. But she soon noticed the smiles were too wide, too sweet, too fake. Her oldest uncle cleared his throat and held up a long sheet of paper. "We have prepared your bride price list," he said, smiling the way someone smiles before announcing bad news. Grace leaned forward. How bad can it be? 2 cows. A few clothes. Some simple items. But when he began to read the list, Grace almost fainted. 20 milch goats. 502 yams. 15 live chickens. 2 bags of salt. 1 giant cooking pot. 2 cartons of milk. A heavy sitting allowance for the elders. A traveling allowance for the aunties. A stepping feet on the compound fee. A breathing in our family line fee. Plus cash gifts for every elder from the first to the last. Grace screamed, "What is all this? Are you people planning a wedding or a world festival?" Her uncles nodded calmly, as if everything made perfect sense. "These are normal things," they said. "We are even helping you." Helping who? James, the man she loved, listened quietly. He held her hand and said softly, "I will pay everything. Please do not worry." But Grace worried. Not because she didn't want to marry him, but because she hated the idea of people eating her money for free. So she asked for the list. She sat down with a pen. She read every line slowly. She shook her head. She circled items. She crossed out others. She calculated like someone auditing the world. After hours of argument, the list was still long, still frightening, but slightly reduced. James smiled and agreed to pay it. Love can make a person patient, even when the world is acting strange. Finally, the wedding day arrived. The hall sparkled. Guests looked beautiful. Music played softly. Grace wore a dress that made her look like she just walked out of a dream. James looked at her with a gentle smile that warmed her heart. Goat meat. She took a mountain of it. The uncles watched, confused. Grace sat at their table, eating with full energy. She mixed rice with soup, soup with meat, meat with anything her spoon could touch. Aunties covered their mouths. Guests stared. James blinked so fast that his eyes hurt. When one uncle tried to stop her, Grace raised a hand. "I paid for everything. Everything here belongs to me. I am collecting my bonus. Please shift." She continued eating until her stomach stood out like a round balloon. Guests burst into laughter. Some clapped. Some said, "She is finished with them today." Others whispered, "This woman is brave. You do not play with her money." By the time she was done, the uncles had no food left. They walked away quietly, defeated, hungry, and embarrassed. Aunties whispered, "May we never annoy Grace in this life." The wedding ended beautifully. Grace smiled, danced, and held James's hand tightly. She felt powerful. She felt victorious. She felt like she had taught the world a lesson. But marriage was a different story. A story Grace was not prepared for. From the first week, James began to see the real Grace, the woman behind the pretty dress and gentle laughter. The kitchen was locked every morning. Sugar was kept under her pillow at night. Milk was hidden inside her shoe cabinet. She counted spoons of rice before cooking. She measured water before boiling. She monitored toothpaste, soap, even the number of times the toilet was flushed. One meal a day became the rule. Not because they lacked money, but because Grace believed saving was the highest form of love. James tried to talk to her. He gently suggested 2 meals a day. Grace frowned. 2 meals are for people who hate their future, she said. He asked about traveling for their honeymoon. James dreamed of seeing new places with his new wife. Grace gasped loudly. Travel? Just to take pictures? That is how money disappears. Her rules became tighter. Her grip on money even tighter. And slowly, James began to sigh every day. He hid snacks under his clothes. He ate fruit behind the house. Sometimes he whispered, "What have I married?" One night, Grace had a dream that shook her soul. In the dream, she buried her money inside the big house to keep it safe. Then she fell sick, too sick to walk, too scared to go to the hospital. When she finally recovered and dug up her money, she saw something terrible. Termites. Thousands of them. They had eaten her money until it turned into brown dust. Grace screamed and ran home, only to find another shock. James was in the living room with a new woman. A gentle, smiling woman. James's mother stood beside her proudly. "My son deserves peace," she said. "This one can cook real food." James and the woman laughed as they shared a large plate of food. Grace reached for James, crying, "Please do not leave me. Please." But he did not look at her. Grace fell to the floor, broken. She woke up from the dream sweating, shaking, breathing like someone chased by shadows. She ran straight to her hidden money spots. She checked behind the fridge, under the bed, inside the paint bucket, behind the picture frame. Everything was still there. Safe. Untouched. But the fear from the dream did not leave her. For the first time in her life, Grace understood something. Money could keep you warm, but it could not keep you loved. And if she continued living with such a closed heart, she would destroy her marriage and destroy herself. Grace sat down quietly and whispered, "I must change." The next morning, James woke up to a smell he did not recognize. Food. Real food. Grace was in the kitchen, smiling, cooking a feast, letting pots boil freely without counting spoons or grains. He stood at the door in shock. "This is for you," she said softly. A feast without rules. And that was only the beginning. When James stepped into the kitchen that morning, he did not believe what he saw. Grace, the woman who once measured even the air inside the house, was stirring a large pot of soup with a gentle smile. Steam rose. Spices floated. Meat danced happily inside the pot like it had finally been released from prison. James blinked twice. "Grace, are you okay?" She nodded. "I had a dream that taught me something important." He wanted to ask questions, but she handed him a plate so full it looked like a festival meal. James stared at it. He had never seen that much food in their house. He took a bite. Then another. Then another. His eyes softened. His shoulders dropped. A sigh escaped his chest, the kind of sigh someone releases after carrying a heavy load for too long. Grace watched him quietly. Every bite he took healed her a little inside. After breakfast, Grace surprised him again. She brought out a large bag filled with money from her hiding places. The bag looked tired, as if even the money inside was begging for fresh air. James swallowed. "Why are you carrying that?" Grace looked at the bag, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm going to do something good with it." Before he could respond, she walked to the door. That day, Grace visited a bank for the first time. People stared at her like she was a famous singer. Some whispered, "Is that not Sticky Fingers? What is she doing here?" Others said, "Maybe she came to warn the bank not to steal her shadow." But Grace walked in confidently, holding her bag like a champion holding a trophy. She deposited every single note, every hidden stash, every wrinkled bill. For the first time in her life, she trusted something outside her own hands. When the bank officer asked if she needed anything else, she smiled lightly. "Yes, I need peace." From that day, everything in Grace's home began to change. She started cooking 2 meals. Then 3. She stopped counting drops of water. She left the kitchen door unlocked. She removed sugar from under her pillow. She stopped monitoring the toilet flush like a security guard. James felt like he was living with a brand new woman. A woman who laughed softly. A woman who didn't panic when a spoon fell. A woman whose heart finally opened. Soon, neighbors noticed the difference. The first shock happened when 2 children passed by her gate, singing loudly and playing with stones. Usually, Grace would come out and shout, "Do you want to break my fence? Stop making noise." But this time, she smiled and gave them cold water to drink. The children looked at each other. "Is this a trap?" Grace laughed, a warm sound nobody ever heard before. The next surprise came when a tired woman knocked at her gate asking for help. Grace stepped out slowly, holding a small envelope. "Here, take this for food." The woman cried and hugged her. Grace felt her heart grow in a way money had never made her feel. Even beggars who once feared her came back with caution. But instead of harsh advice, Grace handed them food, clothes, small money. Stories about the new Grace spread everywhere. People called her the woman with a soft heart. Emma heard the news too. She had been staying far away, too ashamed to return. One evening, she came to the gate with the same dusty box she left with, her eyes filled with tears. Grace opened the gate slowly. They looked at each other for a long moment. Emma bit her lip and whispered, "I am sorry. I was wrong." Grace stepped forward and hugged her. No anger. No shouting. No punishment. Just forgiveness. Emma cried into her shoulder. Grace wiped her tears and said, "If life gives us another chance, we take it gently." The biggest change came in Grace's marriage. One night, James returned home to a surprise. A bright living room. Soft music. A dinner table filled with food. And Grace standing there in a new dress she bought for herself for the first time. She stepped toward him shyly. "I want us to start again." James pulled her close and whispered, "I never stopped loving you. I just wanted you to love life too." They sat, ate, laughed, talked, and held hands like 2 people who finally understood each other. Weeks passed. Months followed. And their home became a place filled with warmth, laughter, peace, and freedom. Grace learned something she had never known before. Money is good. Saving is wise. But love, kindness, and generosity warm the heart in ways money can never do. She found joy in things she once ignored. Cooking together. Sharing stories. Giving to others. Walking hand in hand with James in the evening. Letting life breathe freely around her. People still talked about the old Grace, the woman who could squeeze tears out of money. But the new Grace had a new name. Some called her the soft-handed woman. Some called her the woman who found her heart. But James had the name he loved most. My Grace. One evening, as they sat together watching the sky, Grace smiled and said, "I used to think money made life safe. But now I know something deeper. A closed hand cannot receive anything new. A closed heart cannot grow. And money without purpose is useless as sand." James held her hand gently. Grace whispered, "I am glad I changed." He replied, "Me too." And with that, the woman once called Sticky Fingers became a story people told with smiles, not fear. A story of transformation. A story of healing. A story of how a heart can soften, even after years of being hard. A story that reminds us all. Holding tightly makes life small. Giving freely makes life big. And true wealth is not in what you keep, but in what you share.